Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and this week I really am going to finish those doors. All right, guys, welcome back. And those who are joining me know that this is the Frankenhauler. It is my 1954 Ford F600 truck cab that I have mounted onto a Toyota Coaster bus chassis. If you missed the last episode where I was working on the doors again, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up. And like always, do the things, like and comment. Those things really help out that algorithm. Now, last week I was tackling the doors. I finished off the passenger door. I thought I'd get all the driver's door done and I didn't. But this week I need to get back onto that. I've still got a bunch of holes I need to patch up and a few little minor repairs to tackle to get into it. There were a few questions. A lot of people had not seen or forgotten that this is going to be a patina build. I know that triggers a lot of you, but I have multitude of reasons for that. One of the big ones is the fact that it is such a big truck, and getting all of the panel gaps perfect and all of the lines perfectly straight would take months of work, months more work. A lot of people don't totally grasp how much work it is in getting something like this perfectly straight. It is so much work and it makes so many boring videos, and I will be blending in some of those repairs that I've done and matching in the patina. That also triggers people, but that's why it's my truck and I get to build it the way I like it. Inside is going to be immaculate. Outside is going to be patina, and I am going to match it in and just embrace that feeling. But I will protect it. I will make sure that there is no rust that's going to be coming back and triggering things off. A couple of questions about inside the doors. I am going to go back and rust treat everything inside the doors once I get to the painting stage. I'm going to paint everything much more solidly and stuff inside the doors. But for now, we need to finish them, so let's move over, get on the TIG and start blocking in some of these holes and doing the rest of this patchwork. So first up is welding in the lock patch panel that I made up a couple of weeks ago, and just filling in all of those little gaps. Then grind it back and panel bed it flat. So I mentioned this last week. I thought I'd give you another look at it. So basically what it is it's got a, I believe it's a copper head on a swivel with a magnetic base, and I can adjust the height of it. So I can stick this up magnetically underneath the hole inside, and the weld won't stick to the copper, so I can use it as a backing, a bit of a heat sink, and it's the perfect way to patch up holes. And I've got a bunch of holes to patch, so let's get this underneath and start filling them up with a bit of a backing plate. There is a link in the description for one of these sort of things if you're looking for something similar.
So you can see here with the plug weld tool underneath, it's very easy for me to fill up these holes. And then just making sure I need to leave the holes that I want to keep. So this particular hole was a little bit larger, a bit large to plug weld, so I cut out a square in the panel and then trimmed up a small square little patch to go into place. I held it into place with a magnet on the back, and then I can tack on the front and then weld it in solid. And that's a good way for the slightly larger patch that I need to do. Same again here, this was actually a slot where a clip held the original door lock in, which I no longer need, so that hole needs to be filled up. So again, I just made a small patch and welded that all in the whole way along. Then once I'm happy, I grind back all of the welds. My weapon of choice for this is always the angle grinder with a flap disc, but some of the bits are a little bit too fine, so you can see I use a die grinder and then even the finger sander. So a bit of a mix just to get it nice and clean, and then a coat of etch primer to look after it. On the other side of the door now, and there was a few bits where the metal was bent, and I just needed to do some basic panel beating at first before plugging in some more holes. So in this particular spot I can't fit my magnetic tool, so I have an old bit of brass rod. I either use handheld or tape it into place for plug welding.
So to patch these holes, they are a lot bigger. So what I did is I got some tape and I put the tape behind the hole. Then I cut out a little piece that is just big enough for the hole and stuck it into the hole held by the tape. Then I can tack it in. You can see I've tacked that in. That one I've welded in all the way around. And now I can go weld that all up and then smooth it in, and I've got a nice patch for that hole.
Alright, with those holes patched and ground back, I can move on to where the mirror mounted onto the top edge of the door, and then I can start plugging in the original keyhole. This is a little bit more of a complicated shape, so it took a little bit of trimming and fettling to make a patch just the right shape and size to fit into the hole that was there. An alternative is I could have cut that out into a square or drilled it out into a bigger circle and then put a bigger patch in. That is often an easier way to go than trimming out something that's a bit more complicated. With the patch ground back, it did warp the panel quite a bit in this section, and it's very difficult to get in here, so it took quite a bit of panel beating to get it back out into shape again. Same here, where the mirror had mounted onto the door, it had actually dented the door in quite a bit, and being double skin, just getting something behind there to be able to panel beat was difficult. So you can see me flipping the door upside down and trying to reach into it however I can to get access from behind to fix up those dents. And then the patch where I believe it was the mirror mount was on the front of the door, so that's another little patch piece to fit in. And then it's back onto the truck to check and see my fitment.
All right, and of course my new panel has the same issue at the other side, and it just overhangs and hits just there. So I just need to mark a line, open up this edge and refold it. So let's do that.
So you can see that I didn't really learn from last week's escapades, and I did the same thing and didn't get the alignment perfect with that edge of the door. So I peel it back, and I actually had to trim off the inner skin a little bit. The issue was that I trimmed it off too far and cut a hole through the front, so I had to weld up that hole and patch it in. Not a big deal, but it just obviously creates a little bit more work for myself. Once I'm happy I've got it all patched in, I can mark it and refold the edge of the door and get it all exactly the way I need it so that I have clearance. And you can see here refolding the door and just making sure it is going to close correctly. Now I'm actually using the TIG to just sort out my panel gaps, to just get the panel gaps a little bit neater along the edge of the door.
All right, that panel gap is a lot nicer. I can just give that a bit of fettling when I do my final fit up, but that is looking much, much better. So now we have a repaired door. All right, so with the doors done, the cab is getting there. It's getting very close. So now what I need to do is I actually need to strip the whole truck back down again, get the cab unbolted so I can get to the floor and repair the floor, do all of the welding, and then we can call the cab finished and ready for paint.
So stripping the front end off at this stage is relatively straightforward. Most of these panels have only been held on by one bolt, if any, so it's all relatively straightforward, but it's still a lot of time pulling things apart. Getting the steering arm out is a little bit more complicated, and then stripping off the doors again and getting the cab back to a completely bare shell. That means taking out the steering, the pedals, and all of the wiring which I have put in the truck. Once that's all out, I unbolt the cab and move it backwards and flip it up so that I can get to the bottom of the cab and start repairing it.
As you can see, I have made a flip-top lid with my cab, and it's now up in the air so I can get into it and I can start welding up everything, and also go through and sort of do some repair patches on the floor and things like that. Just get this whole cab completely buttoned up so that I can get ready to paint it in the next week or two.
So now starts a lot of welding. You can see I'm actually using my world class respirator helmet for this job. I find it's very good for when I'm going to be doing prolonged periods of welding. But putting it on off for one or two little things is a little bit more messing around. So it's mostly when I'm going to be doing really messy work and sucking in a lot of fumes that I want to use it. And for some reason, I am not exactly sure why I didn't just weld up the bits that I could get to from the inside while the cab was flat. I decided to flip it up because I knew there were repairs to do on the bottom of the cab, but I probably should have done a lot of the welding while the cab was on the base before flipping it up. It would have made my life much easier, but I'm too far gone now to let it go. So I'm just going to continue patching and welding as I go. And you can see here that I actually have some holes to repair, so I'm making up little patch panels. Some of you did notice that there were holes in the floor previously, and that was mostly because I didn't want to repair a lot of things when I knew I was going to be cutting a lot of it out. As you can see, obviously I replaced quite a bit of the firewall, and that is what I'm now going back through and just tidying it up. And as you can see, up in these corners, up underneath the weather strip of the cowl, there are a few spots where the firewall hasn't completely connected, so I have to make little patches to make sure that I have a perfect seal from the engine bay to the cab, and all this stuff just takes time.
Oh, that was so much work. Just hours and hours of welding. It probably doesn't look like I've done that much in this episode. It's been 3 days of slugging along and welding and moving and filming and everything, but I still haven't finished. I've still got some more to go, but that will have to wait till next time because I am out of time, which means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in November 1935, Ford's luxury brand Lincoln added a new model to their lineup with the Lincoln Zephyr. The Zephyr was designed to fill the luxury car gap between the Ford V8 Deluxe and the Lincoln Model K, both in size and price. The Zephyr was named after the Greek god of the west wind, Zephyrus, and was one of the first successful streamlined cars to go into production after the Chrysler Airflow. The Zephyr was available as a 4-door or a 2-door sedan or convertible, and also as a coupe, which has to be one of the most beautiful pre-war production cars ever built. The Zephyr was powered by Lincoln's 4.4-litre flathead V12, and production continued until it was stopped by World War II in 1942. After the war, production was restarted, but the Zephyr name was dropped and they became known just as the Lincoln H Series until their production finished up in 1948.
All right, well, that was a lot of, probably not much for you guys, but it was a lot of welding for me, and it's still a lot to go. It's quite slow and tedious, and I was actually giving myself motion sickness a little bit there when I had the cab up on the back, and it was rocking backwards and forwards while I was doing it. I was feeling a little ill. I had to actually, firm it up a little bit, but we have a flip-top cab, and I will get through finishing that off next time, but that is done.
I like the improvisation.
Yes, my chopped up
I'm
bits of
built
wood.
using what we have lying around to hand. We have a chunk of wood, we're going to use it.
Exactly. All right, guys.
Patreon if you want to help Jeff out, and see the videos a day early with no ads. And otherwise, just the usual, subscribe if you haven't.
Yep.
Let them know what you think of the videos, comment, and
Yeah.
see you next time.
We'll see you next week.
Yes.
See you guys.
Okay, bye guys. Hey guys, in November 1935, Ford's luxury car. Hey guys, in November 1935, Ford's luxury brand. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Okay. The Zephyr was designed to fill the luxury car gap between the Ford V8 Deluxe and the Lincoln Luxury R.
Model K.
Ah, is that a K?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. The Zephyr was available as a 4-door or a 2-door coupe. The Zephyr was available as a 4-door or a 2-door. The Zephyr was available as a 4-door or a 2-door. Sedan. The Zephyr was available as a 4-door or 2-door sedan or coupe. No. The Zephyr was The Zephyr was available as a 4-door or 2-door sedan and convertible. Okay. The Zephyr was available as a 4-door or a 2-door sedan.
Or convertible.
The Zephyr was powered by Lincoln's 4.4-litre flathead V12 and was made until production was stopped in 1942 by World War I. Oh, damn it.